Hey there, I'm Sierra Bailey from Doers, Shakers, Makers, and I'm going to quickly explain to you something that I reference often and is really helpful in thinking about how to prioritize and focus on where you are spending your time. Stephen Covey first brought up the matrix that I'm going to show you a picture of. Look, I hand wrote it for you. Can you see that? So this is a box. He wrote about this in First Things First, which came out in the mid-90s and is still incredibly relevant to where we are spending our time, how we are putting our energy out there, and what we are focusing on. So he actually brought up this matrix in order to talk about the urgency addiction. And he was saying that we all tend to gravitate to block number one. So at the top of this block here, we have urgent and then not urgent over here. And on this side, we have important and not important over here. So block one is both the urgent and the important. And so he was saying that a lot of us tend to gravitate and want to live there, especially when we're owning businesses or managing a company for somebody else. There are some of us that can't avoid that. If you are a firefighter, if you are a nurse, you are always dealing with the crisis that would fall into that first quadrant. What else comes up in that? Pressing problems, what many of us refer to as the putting out of fires. So if you feel that you are always in that, like, I have to respond to everything and put everything out, you're really putting yourself into that first quadrant, that urgent and important area, which is fine, especially if you have chosen to go into a field where you will be in that, like nursing or a lot of the medicine response, firefighting, things like that, fields. But for many of us, it tends to lead to a lot of anxiety and a lot of feeling like we are always being burned at both ends. So think about when you are going into that urgent and important block: crisis, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects. I would say that if you are somebody that is done with things before deadlines, it is much less urgent than if you are somebody that is pushing right up to the deadline of completing that project and having to be prepared for meetings and preparations. But there are two ways of looking at that. So as I said, we all have projects or things that we're working on. So if you are just working on something and you're achieving it in a nice fashion, then that moves into the non-urgent and important category. But if you are somebody that is either having so many deadlines and meetings that you are forced to be working on a tight deadline all the time, or somebody that just puts yourself into that position, maybe because of the urgency addiction, as he points out, then you are in that urgent and important area. All right, so the point that he makes is ideally you would want to be living in quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 is over here, and that is the not urgent but important. So when I talk a lot about focusing, prioritizing what to spend your energy on, I often talk about how we need to think about putting ourselves in this area. These are accomplishing the projects that are really important to us. They align with our values. There's something that would make us feel very accomplished, like we have purpose, but they're not freaking you out and stressing you out all the time. So the tasks and kind of the things that fall into that quadrant, according to Covey, are preparation, prevention, which we relate to now in this kind of modern vernacular as systems. So creating systems, making sure that you are planning ahead, value clarification. That means going through the exercises that I often walk you through with the beginning of the year or the month or the week of where you're aligning what you want to be doing with what you are doing. Relationship building. You know that we talk a lot about the importance of relationships. It's why I'm a big fan of networking, but very strategic networking, not just going out to every free event that happens and handing your cards to everybody, but joining things that you can start to build relationships with people. And multiple benefits of this. One, if you own a business or are working, these are the people that you will start to work with and do business with. But because even if you are just wanting to create a side hustle, being able to talk about your ideas is so helpful to you actually getting those ideas in action. Surrounding yourself by people who are taking action and doing cool things will really help you take action and do cool things. And of course, mentally, it provides that community and the socialness that makes us all want to get out of bed in the morning. Also in that quadrant are the empowerment and true recreation exercises. So these are, I think of these as continuing your education of doing things again and again that we know get great results. So for example, in my business and a lot of what I'm doing, that is doing things like content creation. So creating my podcast and videos like this and nurturing the Doers, Shakers, Makers Facebook group. All right, we're now starting to move into the unimportant quadrants. So these are not things that I want you to strive for. These are more, the three are the not, sorry, that may have made a weird noise. The three are the not important and yet urgent. Oh, this is a dangerous one because if you have the urgency addiction, you'll really want to go here because you'll think they're important, but these are not important tasks. These are interruptions, some phone calls, some meetings. I know this is kind of vague, but these are, blame Stephen Covey, not me. I'm just sharing with you and explaining it. Some email, some mail, some reports. This is where you start getting into the like making reports for report's sake, not necessarily because it's doing anything. Many pressing matters fall into this and many popular activities. So this is a lot of stuff that we feel like we need to be doing, that it's so important that we get these things done. But really, the doing of these tasks is not moving anything forward. They're not actually accomplishing goals. They are things that we could outsource. They are things that we could delegate. We could perhaps try to delete them, but they are not where we want to be spending our time and energy. And last is quadrant 4, which of course you saw it coming, are the unimportant and unurgent tasks. These are like the trivial busy work things. These are some phone calls that are just useless. These are time wasters, escape activities, as he called it, which, my goodness, he was ahead of the time because that would be Facebook. Scrolling. We all know it's a time waster. Just turn that thing on your phone that tells you how many hours that you have spent this week on Facebook. You'll get a big slap in the face on that. And I say that you will get a slap in the face because you're probably watching this on some sort of social media. And yeah, I appreciate that you're here, but you're here. The irrelevant mail, which it's like reading spam mail, answering emails that you don't need to. That's why that TIA, thank you in advance, is so useful. When you send an email, TIA, you don't have to send a thank you afterwards. And of course, excessive TV, which has only been made worse with all of the streaming things. So to review, you should try to spend all of your time in quadrant 1 and 2. Ideally, a lot of it in quadrant 2, so you're not feeling like you're always stressed out and trying to run through life, unless of course you've chosen one of those professions. And then thank you for your service of making sure that we all function healthily. But I do want to also remind you that as a talented tiny business owner, sometimes we don't have a chance to have the resources, let's say, to always be able to delegate out. In those situations, try to use technology to your benefit. Don't by any means get stuck on setting up of technology that is a time waster, but because that preparation, prevention, planning, those are all quadrant 2. That means maybe you can create a Zap to move those emails from your website to MailChimp if it doesn't already automatically do that. Maybe that means that you set up something like Todoist, which is an app that you can set up your reoccurring things on your schedule. So you don't have to remember to pick up your prescription, to drop off the dry cleaning, or to wash the kitchen floor once a week. You are just automatically reminded once you've set it up. So things that may not be something that you can pay somebody to do, you can still delegate through technology. I want you to remember that. I'm not telling you you have to go get an assistant to take these off your hands. You can set up your email to automatically filter out anything that has subscribe in it, to help those newsletters all go into a folder that you don't have to read them unless you want to read them. You can put your phone on airplane mode and not get disruptions until you are done with the time block that you're working on a project that may be in quadrant 1 or 2. That way you avoid all of those interruptions in quadrant 3. You can just delete tasks. If you're finding that you're doing something that you thought that you should be doing but is absolutely not helping anything, a lot of the things that I think we try to like track or that we feel like, for example, Instagram for me, I'm horrible at it. It doesn't seem to do any needle moving for me. I now put my outfit up there once a day. Otherwise, I don't care about Instagram. I don't worry about it. It is not the place where I am spending my time. That's okay. I've deleted that. All right. I hope this inspires you to get out there and think about what your tasks are in. Are you spending all of your time in quadrant 3 and 4? Try to get yourself into quadrant 2 and even 1. I don't want you to be wasting the precious hours that you have in the day on things that absolutely don't make you feel like you have purpose, like you are fulfilled, and like you are having the business that you want. If you have any questions, as always, reach out. If you're not in the Doers, Shakers, Makers Facebook group, get on over there and join. We talk about things like this all the time, and we have some fun. It's a great community. So even if you're not in a place where you can be around people, you can do your networking and community building there. I will see you next week. Thank you again. I'm Sierra Bailey from Doers, Shakers, Makers.